we are live on Facebook. This is the first time we're doing this. So hello world. So for now, let me introduce my guests, my panelists, my partners in crime or not. I'm going to start with Komotso Mokwena, who's an attorney and a lecturer at UJ. Komotso's been in the labor law space for over 10 years now. So she really does understand a lot of what is going on and how COVID has impacted a lot of people's employment rights. So she'll be speaking to us a lot about the processes that people have to follow in order for them to be able to enforce some of these rights. And we have Jermaine Mop, who is our resident UIF expert, and he's been in the game now for over 10 years. Jermaine is currently studying towards his master's in labor law, so we're in very, very, very good hands. I've also invited one more panelist. His name is Zweli Mkhalamele, and he's going to speak to us a little bit about how our responsibilities as a result of us not being able to get our monies, how our situations such as paying rent and evictions and how that's going to affect us, because going forward, a lot of people are finding themselves in a very tricky situation when it comes to that. The UIF TERS, employers are saying, well, we can't pay you. That's why we can't keep you. That's why we're retrenching you. But a lot of the questions that came in from the link is that people are saying, but how can an employer say they can't pay me if the government made provision for them to be able to pay me?
So I'm going to defer part of this question to Jermaine, but just as what I'm, just at a high level, what we know is that TERS doesn't necessarily pay the entirety of an individual's salary. So it doesn't mean that that application, I mean, ideally people should get some of their money, but it doesn't mean that retrenchment will be completely avoidable, whether it's period now or in the next 6 months or 12 months. It doesn't mean that completely. But I would say that if a matter comes before the CCMA or the labor court, if an employer is saying, they're pleading poverty, they're saying the reason we dismiss is because of economic reasons, I think they're going to have to be able to show that they took certain measures to attempt retrenchment. So I don't think they're going to get away with having not done, even attempted to do a TERS application, not bothered to find ways to pay salaries, and then they now need to retrench. They did not all the avenues to retrenchment. So I think that is going to be going forward, but I think the rest should be deferred to Jermaine.
Yes, Jermaine, to bring you in here, following on what Komotso is saying, we have UIF saying that they've paid out over 9 billion rand in TERS funding, but a lot of employees are crying and saying that we haven't received the funds. And when people go on the link to check, some people can see that their claims have not been processed, but others can actually see that their claim has been processed, but they haven't yet received the funds. So when we talk about the space of retrenchments and employees and employers claiming poverty and not being able to pay, how valid is that as a reason for employers to then use that as an excuse as a reason to retrench?
No, that can't be a reason at all, because the government has expressly outlined lots of initiatives. Remember, this is an unprecedented thing that has never happened before. We are in the cusp now of history in the country and what the government is able to do. And I feel the government is actually bending backwards over to be able to mitigate some of those losses from the employer's point of view. There's so many funds available, Solidarity Fund, there is the Department of Trade and Industry, there's the IDC, there's all those places that they allocated money for them. And when it comes to the UIF, we've come to realize now and see that, look, but the employees are getting the money, but the money is not disbursed to the employees, of which now the Department of Labor has actually identified that. And the minister has expressly made a call stating that, look, guys, we're going to crack down on you if you're not going to pay this money. Some people think even this money is a loan. And I said that can't be further from the truth. This is not a loan. This is a money that is allocated for you as an employee. So you can be able to access these funds. So
Jermaine?
another point also that I need to highlight is that UIF is not tax deductible at all. The amount
Yeah.
of money that you see on your ID number is the amount that's supposed to get straight to you. Sometimes people see on their payslips that there's some money that was taken away out of this money, and that is not supposed to be. That is not a statutory deduction as
Mm,
to other deductions in terms of your payslip. So
mm,
those things need to be cleared out, and they need the employees need to know that the money they see is the complete entire amount that was allocated directly for them. Yeah.
mm. Jermaine, what could be some of the reasons why an employee doesn't get TERS? Because we've heard some people say, even in instances where an employer gets relief funding, we've seen where the commissioner has said that some employees are not declared. So what could be some of these other reasons that could lead employees? I know you smile, but there's a lot of things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. So from an employee, if I'm not receiving my TERS funding, what could some of those reasons be?
Look, I'm smiling because I've been speaking about UIF for years. On my YouTube channel, I spoke about when the amendments came to in 2016 about the UIF. I made an
Mm,
extensive video about that. Now, the employers are realizing now that, hey, we have not declared, we didn't care about this UIF. Now, the bomb has burst on top of you as an employer, of which
yeah,
now you have to, because in terms of the Unemployment Insurance Act, it says the employer must declare on the 7th of each and every month.
yeah.
They have to declare electronically. And
Mm,
it's not so difficult to declare. You just by a click of a
mm,
button, then you've declared. Even if you have 10,000 people in your firm, by click of one button, the spreadsheet is available. You click the button, then if you declared. Now, when you as an employee go to the Department of Labor, I stop working now, which means now that I go to the Department of Labor, the official tells you, but your name is not here. What is this now?
mhm.
But I've been working for this company for the 5 years now. My name is
Yeah.
not here. Then questions start to come, start raising now. What happened in the HR? What happened in HR?
Mm,
Did nobody declare this person?
mm,
What happened on all those levels? So
mm,
which means now that official now has to call the employer and say, look, send us UI-19 form, send us the all supporting documents, and the employer never bothered. So now the employee is becoming more vigilant now. They are getting to the bandwagon. Some employees haven't even registered their business. They've been operating for the
mm,
longest time. They
mm,
feel they need to do it now. So all these things are very unprecedented, man. And
mm,
some of the reason that the money that they could not have received their money is because previously there was a claim, maybe
mm,
an illness benefit claim. Maybe you exhaust all your sick leave, it goes into unpaid. Where do you go? You go to UIF, you claim illness
mm,
benefits. Or you go on maternity leave and you claim that money. So now, when the COVID application comes, your application is somewhere stuck around in no man's land because of
mm,
previous employment histories or employment periods that was never updated, or the
mm,
termination of services was never indicated. So those are the type of teething problems that they have. But fortunately now the online system has come a long way. It had teething problems. I mean, I think uh, uFiling has been around since 2006 already. That's how
yeah.
long it has never been used. Where we now, 2020, how many years has it already been on?
Mm,
Now that everybody's on the system, the challenge now is that the system is crashing all the time because of the
yeah.
influx, the volumes, they couldn't cope. I think I spoke to another guy working there. He said to me, look, they had to install a new server in the head
Mm,
office to be able to accommodate the influx. And I also heard that the Labor Minister they have employed an addition 250 people in the call center
mm,
alone to be able to deal with it because they can't cope. That's the
mm,
realities I have to indicate to the people because they will be challenged, but it doesn't stop you from nonetheless as an employer to try to make your application go through. And
okay.
there's many technical things I can go into it whilst the questions come as
Mm.
they arise, and then I will get into the details of that.
Yeah. So just to run down what Jermaine is saying, there could be many reasons because that's a lot of the questions that came in from the link where people were saying that my employer was paid and I can see that there's funds due to me but they haven't been paid through. But the bigger problem is people who've been having their UIF deducted every single month. and they were under the belief that the employer was actually paying this money over to the UIF, but they weren't. So a lot of those employees are finding themselves in situations where they were not declared, which is also putting them in a bit of a difficult situation. But from what we're hearing from Jermaine is that the system is making it possible for employers to go and fix some of these problems. Just to declare the people and say, guys, hey, I messed up here. Can we fix the situation so that the worker who have been deducting UIF from every month can actually benefit from this TERS? But I must also stress here that with a lot of these things that are going on and everyone saying that it's unprecedented, a lot of times we also have to take the responsibility as employees and actually go and speak to our employers. You know, I've seen a lot of people sending me questions and I asked them, have you spoken to your employer? A lot of people have not even taken, maybe because of the dynamics between your relationship with your employer, but you must go and ask your employer what is going on. Even if it's a difficult conversation, it is important for you to understand what is going on, to understand what is wrong, so that you can understand how to take the situation forward. So thank you so much for that, Jermaine. We're definitely going to come back to this because it's a big one. Going back, Komoto, we got a very interesting question here. This actually threw me off because when we say a lot of things are happening, that I don't think a lot of us could have even predicted. So the question that came in is that instead of retrenching employees, employers are opting to terminate permanent employment and switching employees to be on a contract basis. So the question is this the correct procedure? And should the remuneration stay the same? So I'm guessing here a situation where their long-term contract is, I guess, unilaterally, and they've been put on almost some sort of fixed-term contract. Komoto, could you please help one of our participants to get their head around this issue?
So it's oh, am I here?
Yeah. So I guess people just want to know who gets which money where. Because now if I'm retrenched, am I still an employee? Do I fall under TERS? Or do I now have to go and make my own unemployment claim at the UIF?
Okay. It's important to be able to draw distinction between the two types of UIF. Remember, COVID-19 UIF is something completely new, of which they introduced it basically to tap into the UIF. And remember, the UIF fund is a very healthy fund. They have lots and lots of money. And that money, no, seriously, there's estimated that around about 200 billion rand was in there the last time, sitting there, just gaining interest the last time. And the 9 billion is nothing, it's a drop in the ocean, honestly speaking. So they made this money available because, honestly speaking, UIF was using this money on a whole lot of nonsense, in my opinion. When I did some research on what they spend the money on. But anyway, some of the money's in the PIC also, by the way. So that's that as well. But anyway, so you need to be able to claim that money when you are retrenched. However, you won't need to be able to have UIF when the retrenchment takes place. You can get the COVID-19 UIF. And afterwards you can get a normal UIF. So nothing stopped you from getting both. You see, so since the company has been in this trying times at the moment, you can claim the COVID, but then the company finds, look, I have to close down now because this business is unsustainable now. And then after that, he fills new UIF forms, so you can claim for the temporary UIF. So which means that you won't be negatively affected in any way if you claim COVID. You receive that money. After that, now you have been retrenched maybe a month later. You do another claim. The employee fills in the same documents again. You can even fill in the same documents again. You will still be able to qualify to get that money. See, that's how it works. So it's almost the same as maternity benefits. Like you go on maternity now, you receive your money on maternity. 3 months later, you have been retrenched. You make another application in the very same year, you will get money again. That's how it works. So nothing stops you from getting both on in terms of ordinary benefits. Retrenchments is linked to ordinary benefits, like the normal benefits. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, no. I hope we all got that with the COVID TERS, it's the employer who must apply on behalf of the employees. And should they then end up being retrenched anyway, the employee then will still be in a position to claim UIF, but unemployment UIF. However, the employer will probably just will end up having to fill in the same forms, the U19 forms that will be required by the UIF in order for them to be able to process this payment. Jermaine, just to go back to TERS, it had been said that the minimum that people could get on TERS is the minimum wage, which is about 3,500 rand or thereabout. But there's people who are saying that they're getting less than that. What could some of these reasons be? And these are people who, I mean, if you could talk to us the difference between people who are already, the employer is contributing, so they just got a salary cut, versus people who are actually getting nothing from the employer, but still getting less than the minimum wage.
Technically, you're not supposed to be getting less than the minimum. Let's say you're a domestic worker, right? And your employer has now applied for you, and you earning the in terms of the sectoral determination on domestic workers, it's 15 rand an hour. So that is the amount you receive now on a monthly basis, and then it falls short of the national minimum wage. When your application is approved, even though you fall short, the UIF automatically tops it up to 20 rand an hour of the 3,500. I've never come across a situation where people has received less than that amount. It could be possible that that is only but the first payment. The following month, they will be able to get another payment. Could be a reason as to why they only get the amount. And also, it works on a sliding scale. As I explained to you the last time, from 20% right up on 60%, depending on your salary level. Remember, the lower you earn, the higher on the sliding scale you go, and the higher you earn, a little bit lower you go on the sliding scale. So that's how it works in terms of
Okay. One of the biggest questions, Jermaine, is with regards to foreign nationals and their UIF contribution. Because a lot of the system almost doesn't seem like it can take passport numbers. It seems to be centered around IDs. So a lot of foreign nationals who have been contributing to the fund are left in a position where they don't know where to turn, because they go to their employers tell them, well, we're trying, but the system won't let us. Then they go to the UIF, and the UIF is like, well, you need an ID number. So you're almost caught in the middle. So what can they expect? Because I've heard that there's talk about fixing the whole passport thing. So what can they expect to come, and what is the situation now?
Look, with regards to foreign national at the moment, they are entitled to the benefits. And there's no mistake around that. They have dealt with applications of foreign nationals on a normal basis when the labor centers has been open. The only advice I can give the foreign national, you have to wait up until the Department of Labor opens up again their offices. Then the official will take your application manually. Now, what happens with that application? A normal person, a normal official at the department won't process that application. That application goes directly to the head office of the Department of Labor in Pretoria. And those people at the UIF there, they specifically deal only with that application. And there's a specific section that deals with foreign national applications, because the COVID-19 or the Department of Labor website, in terms of uFiling, for some reason, they didn't make provision allocating that space for them to apply there. So that's the only advice. I know it's a difficult thing, but that is the only practical advice I can give you at the moment.
Yeah. I think sometimes we have to hear things that we don't want to hear. I think the system, it didn't cater for foreign nationals, and that's unfortunate, even though they've been contributing. But I mean, listening to what Jermaine is saying, it's difficult because there's rent, there's other expenses. But just bear in mind that you are entitled to get your UIF benefits. It's just that it might be a little bit more difficult, and it might take a bit more time, but it will happen eventually. I want to address a lot of the questions that have come in the Q&A. So I'm just gonna allocate them. So the first one is the person gives us a bit of context where they say they've been working at Spur. Their pay slip shows that they've been deducting UIF. Some people have received some of the UIF funds, but not everybody. They said they've been claiming since April. what can they do to fight for their rights? I think for this one, before I bring you in, Jermaine, there's a link that the UIF has actually put out on their website for people to be able to check the list of employers who've actually been paid their UIF funds. Alternatively, they've actually made it even easier for you to use your ID number to check if your claim has been processed. And it's important for you, like we said earlier, that as an employee, you also have to take responsibility and check for some of these things. And if you haven't been processed, it's important to then go and ask your employer what's going on. Sometimes it's not the employer's fault. You find situations where employers have declared employees, but because of glitches in the system, you didn't show up and maybe the employer has to resubmit. So it's important to talk and ask questions before you get angry that nothing is getting done.
I
Jermaine,
have
do you
nothing
want
to
to
add.
add to that?
No, I have nothing to add. I think you've outlined everything perfectly. So I have nothing
Okay.
to add to that, literally.
Yay, me. All right, how can we check if they've applied for us? Guys, please go and check for this link. It's been made available now. I think it's been live for over about 2 weeks now. We have one more question here, guys. We have a question saying, I submitted hence I cannot access my online. Jermaine, is it possible for someone to fraudulently access your uFiling account? I'm guessing that's where this question is going from Nadine.
No, there is many safeguards built in there, and each company has their own unique UIF reference number. So, and I can't foresee or anticipate anybody else accessing that company information unless the person has the password. There's no way of hacking the system at all. As far as I have seen and experienced in the past, there's no way we can be able to do fraudulently. But however, what happens is that employers, what happened, I've picked up this trend at the moment. Employers are claiming on behalf of their employees. However, some of the employees are outside their business. They're no longer in the company. So they still make an application for TERS for the money, and they pocket that money. And I've come to one instance where this person is working for a daycare. She moved over to another daycare. So the new daycare tried to claim the money on her behalf. She couldn't, she was the only one out of the employees who couldn't access the money. Only to discover when she typed in the ID number, there was an already application made from the previous daycare she was working. And so she was in limbo and she couldn't get the money. So these things do happen. You need to be mindful of that. Employers,
And
the government has made these things so much easier for you. However, with these things, there come other loopholes and there come other avenues of unscrupulous behavior from employers. To be honest, that is now categorically the truth. So people need to be mindful
no,
of that.
that's really,
That's why they built, that's why they built in the system for you to check your ID number against what was claimed for you. The amount that is on there, 5,479 rand, that is exactly the same amount you should get in your account, as an example.
okay. All right. Triple, could we please unmute Nadine van der Haar? Because I see I think what Nadine is struggling with is accessing the system. And also when they do that check where they send you like which companies have you worked for, I think it's that security check. So I'm guessing she's having problems there, but I think maybe she would be the best person to ask her question.
Hello.
Hi, Nadine.
Hi. Yes. So I attempted to register for uFiling, and it finds a profile for me that is associated with other phone numbers and email addresses that are not mine and companies I've not worked for. So it has now blocked me whilst I am attempting to apply for UIF for the first time.
Are you an employer or are you doing on behalf of your company or are you doing it for yourself?
I'm an employee. I'm now dismissed.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the normal application process.
Yes.
Okay. Now what I want to find out from you is, have you applied for UIF in the past?
I've never applied for UIF.
Okay. So, and has the employer declared electronically for your UIF?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what the because if the employer has declared electronically, I don't foresee any problems in terms of that, unless the employer did not declare. So maybe you can just send me your ID number, and then I will be able to ask one of the people that I know to check if there's a problem. That's the only thing I can do for now, and it's difficult even to find this, but I'll make an attempt. Although I can't promise anything, but I'll try to able to check if there is any other problem, because sometimes your previous employer could not have a declared, and then your employment history shows that, look, we're still waiting for your previous company. Like, your previous company didn't declare to us, there was no termination of service there, so we needed UI-19. So let's say you worked at VW, making an example, and previously you worked at BMW, or so, which means that the previous company, they never declared that. So now that you're working for the new company, the previous company still need to sort that problem out before you can even access that. That's unfortunately the drawback in terms of that, and with good reason, because they need to um, consolidate all your employment history so they can get all your money. There can't be a situation whereby you waiver the previous company's money, and I'm only going to claim for that. That's not how it works at all. All employment history you work need to be declared. I'm just anticipating it could be one of the problems. However, it's not difficult to know for sure.
All right. So, Jermaine, is it okay if I give Nadine your contact details for her to
Yes, sure.
contact you directly? Okay, cool. Nadine, will that help you?
Yes, thank you very much.
How long will TERS last? I mean, I know the UIF has said that they haven't yet opened up for May. So a lot of people, employers and employees, want to know for how long can they claim for. How much are they going to earn? I think this speaks to the sliding scale. And one other interesting question is, a lady here is saying that her employer is I guess withholding documentation that she needs for her to be able to apply for her maternity leave. So the question, I guess, becomes, can an employer, I guess, withhold this kind of documentation that basically stops you or slows you down? Because she says that she first asked for these documents when she was 2 months pregnant. Now she's 7 months pregnant, and the baby's on the way.
I wouldn't know why would the employer do that. You can't withhold the documents. It's documents that is not even belonging to you as an employer. That document, a UI-19 is an official document of the Department of Labor. So the only thing what you need to do is take the document, must go to you, Mr. Employer, for this document and bring it back to me at Department of Labor, as an example. So the employer has no right to keep these documents. I think sometimes what happens is the employer hold the employees ransom for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why would they. I'm sure there's something that happened there we're not privileged to know, but outrightly, employers are supposed to keep those documents. What that person could possibly do is when the Department of Labor opens, have one of the officials phone on her behalf to request those documents. I can guarantee you that that employee will not hold those documents if an official of Labor Department phones them. Okay, so that maybe that's the best advice I could give on that aspect. What is the other questions?
Okay. How long will TERS last?
Um, the last time I checked, they said it's going to be for 3 months. And I'm not sure whether it's going to be extended, but the last time I checked, it's going to be 3 months worth of payments that you're going to be getting. However, the problem is now that the lockdown restrictions has eased down. Many people are going back to work. So I guess it will only be for those people who are still remain under lockdown. If you go back to work, unfortunately, you won't be able to claim the money again. I think that's why it was maybe for 3 months in the extreme measure that you are only able to go back to work maybe at level 2 or 1, then you will be able to still access that money. But if you start to go back to work, as the president announced last night, in terms of from level 4 to 3 at the end of May, then you are able to not claim the money if you go back to work. Yeah. And then the last question was
other question is, how much will I earn?
Well, it depends on the sliding scale. The least of, let me put it this way, the least amount of money that you can receive from the UIF is an amount of 3,500 rand. However, the most amount of money you can get per month is 6,800 rand. Remember, it's on a ceiling of 17,000 rand. So even if you earn 30,000 rand, the money is calculated on a 17,000 rand basis in terms of the ceiling. So you will get somewhere in around 6,800 rand for the month up until your credits are exhausted. I hope I've answered the question.
No, thank you. Actually, you have. Komoto, I have a question for you. It's not aligned necessarily to what we're talking about today, but because it was sent in, I think it's fair that we at least talk about it a little bit, even though we're running out of time. So the question, it's a pay parity question where this person is saying that they're earning less than their colleague who's doing the exact same job.
Oh, lovely one.
So I guess in this situation, yeah, yeah.
Story of so many lives, especially women.
Yeah, it's such a loaded question.
Yeah, it's such a look. It's definitely something that you can take as an unfair labor practice, the CCMA, within 90 days of realizing that that thing is happening. So it is something that you can report. It's so difficult. I mean, this employee is very fortunate that they found that out. I don't know if you've realized, but most employers are like, that's confidential. Never talk about your salary. So they don't want people to know. They don't want people to know that they're not getting paid the same amount of money. So a lot of employers do that, honestly. So it is something you can take to the CCMA to say, look, I believe I'm not being, but any issue that you take to the CCMA, you should have tried to exhaust some remedies inside your workplace first. So it's something that you can certainly raise internally, whether it's in the form of a grievance or even if it's just an inquiry. I'm concerned about this issue. The other thing is sometimes people don't realize that people may be getting paid at different levels because of things like number of years of experience, types of qualifications, the fact that they are doing similar work. Of course, the underlying principle is equal pay for work of equal value, but things like years of experience play from time to time. So it's something that an employee should try and inquire about internally. And if they get no joy, they can say that it's an unfair labor practice and take it to the CCMA.
Can I weigh in there as well?
Yeah.
In the banking sector, there's this one thing where the employer will say, look, we don't want you to discuss your salary with anybody. It's very prevalent in the banking sector. And that can't be further from the truth. Because in terms of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, it clearly states that you can discuss your conditions of service with anybody. And that includes your payslip. There is no such thing where people, I mean, there's this huge misconception in this myth where I will get or I will get fired if I discuss my salary. You can discuss your salary with anybody. However, the thing is, you can't look at somebody else's salary. If somebody choose to tell you, that's fine. However, if you're going to be nosy and check and say, but I saw that person's salary, that is unlawful. So you need to be very careful for you as an employee with regards to that. And you're right when you said that in terms of the Employment Equity Act, in terms of the equal pay for work of equal value, that can be tested in terms of at the CCMA, because I think in terms of employment equity, CCMA have exclusive jurisdiction to those cases. Am I right? Or I think yeah. So just people, employees just need to be mindful of that. They can challenge these things at CCMA, yes.
Okay. There's more questions that have come in. Guys, thank you so much. We're glad that you are getting benefit from all of this, but it means we're going to go on for another 5 minutes. So I've got a question here from Zachariah asking about foreign nationals. We covered that earlier, and Jermaine said that unfortunately the system right now can't take in passport numbers, but it does not mean that your contributions went to waste. It just means that the process is going to take a little bit longer, and that you might actually just have to go into the labor center once the center is open and process a manual application. Jermaine, is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay.
One
No,
thing
wait.
I just want to mention. Okay, okay, fine.
Okay, we're gonna come back. Just let's get through this. I promise people 5 more minutes. There's another question here that's a bit of a long question, where they say that their employer initiated short time for the remainder of the year because of COVID-19 and the impact on the business. And then last week, their shop steward told them that they were going to be remunerated, as well as a top-up will be given for the short hours paid in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know, maybe we can just ask this person to ask their question. It's Galaxy 830, because what I'm not sure of is whether the short, I'm not even sure I understand the question, unless Jermaine, you've read it and you understand and you can answer it properly.
Maybe you can ask this question, yeah. I think it's the best, yeah. But I think some people want to remain anonymous, and that's fine.
Yeah, so we'll just call him Galaxy 830. It's okay, Galaxy 830. Jermaine, I have one last one from today's session that's saying, how can I get my UIF reference number? It is a requirement for me to register on the labor website.
Is an employer asking that now?
It's
Is it
David
an
Barak.
employee?
I actually don't know. Yeah, it's an employee. He's an employee.
Okay, a UIF reference numbers is not for employees. Only an employer have a UIF reference number that you'll put all your employees. If you have 100 employees, if you have 10,000 employees, you use one reference number. So that's how it works. So I'm guessing this is probably an employer. The only way you can get it is you need to call into the Department of Labor's website, into the Department of Labor offices, to get your reference number. I was gonna read out, I have the latest number from the Department of Labor, UIF, because all the other
Please
numbers that
do.
has been there, I'm just gonna read it out for those who have a pen. If you want to call the UIF officers for any of the inquiries, these are apparently the latest numbers that is working. It took me a long time to get the proper numbers because I tested these numbers myself, and I can guarantee that it is working. Okay, so the first one is the toll-free number. It's 0800 203 234. 0800 203 234. That's the toll-free one. And that is now for the that number is for the normal UIF. The COVID-19 number, it's not a toll-free number. It's the head office number. It's specifically only dealing with COVID-19 application, and this number is 012 337 1997. Those are the two numbers that is actually working. Some of the other numbers that you'll find at the website is not working at all. I think some of the numbers just, I don't know what happened to them.
I think a lot of us have tried those numbers. But guys, let me wrap it up. Let me wrap it up, and then I'll give my panelists a chance to say goodbye. So from the session today, what have we learned? We've learned what is a retrenchment, that it's a retrenchment based on operational reasons. So it could either be economical, technological, and there's a third one. I don't remember it right now.
Structural.
Yes. Structural. Go with me.
Or similar needs.
Similar needs. So it's basically a no fault dismissal. It's not that you did something wrong. It's that something happened that changed the circumstances in the business that led to you being retrenched. When it comes to UIF TERS, it is the employer that is supposed to apply for TERS. TERS, from what we've heard, will last about 3 months. And it's on a sliding scale. The minimum you can get is 3,500. The maximum is 6,700. Am I correct, Jermaine?
6,800.
800. If you find yourself, if you feel that you're aggrieved and you still think that this is unfair, you can refer the matter to the CCMA. They are taking online referrals, so it's better that you familiarize yourself with the form. Komoso told us that the call centers are working, so if you need help with filling in the form, and it is a tricky form, I think most people do struggle with that form, You're welcome to call the call center before you send in your form. For the employers that are here with us today, please do the right thing. But what we mean by do the right thing is please consult with your employees, please communicate with your employees, please keep people abreast of what is going on in the organization. And if you're going to retrench, please consider the processes that have been put in place for you to retrench, so that you don't find yourself on the wrong side of the commissioner when you're at the CCMA. If you're an employee who's getting retrenched, please note that it is not the employer's duty to make sure that you are 100% happy. They just have to consult with you and get to whatever is best for the business. But you at the same time can still go to the CCMA and refer this matter. But even once that does happen, the money that you're supposed to get at the end of your employment is your severance pay, which is a week's worth of remuneration for every completed year of service, your outstanding leave that you haven't taken, your notice leave, and any other monies that are due to you. Oh yeah, with the rent, remember you can't be evicted if it's going to lead to you being homeless. So in situations like that, you're going to find that your landlord will probably have to provide a court order for them to be able to have a legal eviction. But like as Zweli said, please reach out to other organizations such as SERI, that's SERI, or CALS, CALAS, and they will be able to help you better with some of these situations. For myself, I know this is a horrible way to wrap up, but thank you so much for making the time to be here. We really do appreciate you guys being here. We hope that you've learned. We hope that you've gained from this. A big thing also to remember is that as an employee, please also speak up, speak to your employers, communicate with your employers. If you see something and it says that it's not processed, it doesn't necessarily mean that your employers are not trying. I mean, the system has brought a lot of frustration for employers who really are trying to do the best that they can. And it's not that they're out to cheat you or they're out to try and take your money. So it's important to just, I think everyone just needs to communicate. As we take this thing forward, we are so happy that you guys are learning from our webinars. We're looking forward to the next one. We're going to keep going until, well, we've taught you everything. Okay, that'll never happen. But from myself, I'd like to say thank you so much. And I'm going to hand over to the rest of my panelists. Khomotso,